Hey everybody, it's Nathaniel Avila, reporting from Dallas County, and who am I here with today?
Hi, it's Hanyu.
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing good, a little tired, but that's just for the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how was Acon?
Acom was great.
Did you
A little
meet? Yeah.
tiring, but it was good.
Did you
I
meet?
mean,
Yeah.
there were some things that can be improved, but moving into a new venue always happens that there's lots of confusion, things like that. But for me, overall, I enjoyed myself,
Great.
not being at work.
Did you meet anybody cool?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay. Well, Lo, do you know what we're talking about today?
Honestly, it's been a little bit, and I can't not remember what we decided to talk about.
We're gonna do the Thunderbird.
Okay, yay!
All right. So let's get started on the Thunderbird, which is a legendary creature in certain North American indigenous peoples' history and culture. So now let's get into what a Thunderbird is. Do you know what a Thunderbird is?
No.
Okay. Well, a Thunderbird is said to create thunder by flapping its wings, according to Algonquin folklore, and lightning by flashing its eyes, according to Algonquin and Iroquois folklore. So let me show you a picture of a Native American rendition of what a Thunderbird looks like. So, yep, there it
Mm.
is. So yeah, that's kind of what a Native American artistic rendition of a Thunderbird. Pretty snazzy, huh?
It is. It is nazi.
All right. Well, let's continue. So we're gonna start with the Thunderbird myth and motif is present among the Algonquin peoples in the northeast, which includes places like Eastern Canada and Northeastern United States, and the Iroquois peoples, which is surrounding of the Great Lakes. So the decision of the Northeast region has included Algonquin-speaking people in the lakes bordering the U.S. Midwest states, like the Ojibwe in Minnesota. So the Algonquin mythology, the Thunderbird controls the upper world, while the underworld is controlled by the underwater panther or the great horned serpent. So the Thunderbird creates not just thunder, but lightning bolts, which cast at the underworld creatures. So what are we thinking about this Thunderbird right now?
Kind of interesting. Kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so let's talk about so Thunderbirds in this tradition may be depicted as a spread-eagled bird, which is like wings and horizontal in the head and profile, like I just showed you just a minute ago. But also quite commonly with the head facing forward, thus presenting an X-shaped appearance overall, which we'll go over a little bit later. So the Ojibwe version of the myth states that the Thunderbirds were created by the Nanabozo for the purpose of fighting the underwater spirits, and they were also used to punish humans who broke moral rules. So the Thunderbirds lived in the four directions, like the northeast, southwest, and arrived with other birds in the springtime. And in the fall, they migrated south after ending the underwater spirits' most dangerous season. So they're here to protect us. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you'll feel pretty safe with these things on watch?
Maybe.
Maybe. Why maybe?
Well, depends on what the consequences would be if I did something wrong.
Then what they'll be attacked by the underwater spirits. Ooh. So the Menominee of the northern Wisconsin tell of the great mountain that floats in the western sky on which dwell the Thunderbirds. So they control the rain and hail and delight in fighting the deeds of greatness. Delights in fighting and deeds of greatness. They don't fight the deeds of greatness. They like fighting and deeds of greatness. And they are the enemies of the great horned snakes, and have prevented these from overrunning the earth and devouring mankind. And they're also known as messengers of the great sun himself. So that's pretty much an overall look of the Thunderbird in Algonquin language, Native American tribes. So what do we think about the bird so far?
Interesting, and it's still interesting.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at some signatures using Thunderbirds on the Great Peace of Montreal, which is a peace treaty between New France and 39 of the First Nations of North America that ended the Beaver Wars. So here's the Mississaugas, the Mississaugas, I believe it's pronounced, their signature using a Thunderbird.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's how that looks like. That's the Mississaugas signature. This is the Ho-Chunk. That's their signature. And this is the Menominee, all using the Thunderbird in their signatures in this treaty. So that kind of shows like what a big deal the Thunderbirds is to these people. Am I right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's go into the Siouan language peoples, which include tribes traditionally accompanying the areas around the Great Lakes, which includes the Ho-Chunk, which states that a man who has a vision of the Thunderbird during a solidarity fast, which is a rite of passage in some Native American cultures, will become a war chief of the people. Do you think you'll be able to see one on a solidarity fast?
Maybe.
Okay. So yeah, the ethnographer George Armos Dorsey transcribed a tale from the Arikaras, with the title "The Boy Who Befriended the Thunderbirds and the Serpent." And a boy named Antelope Carrier finds a nest with 4 young Thunderbirds. And their mother comes and tells the human boy that a 2-headed serpent comes out of the lake to eat the young. And that's pretty much the story. So yeah, what do you think about the Arikara's interpretation of the Thunderbird, along with the Ho-Chunk?
Kind of sad that you have to watch out and that your species can go up in flames if they're eaten by a predator. Yeah,
that's why we have the Thunderbirds on watch. They're here to help us out. So, in Algonquin images, an X-shaped Thunderbird is often used to depict the Thunderbird with its wings alongside its body and its head facing forwards, instead of in profile. So the depiction may be stylized and simplified, and a headless X-shaped Thunderbird was found on an Ojibwe Midewiwin, I believe it's pronounced, or the Grand Medicine Society, which is a secretive religion in some of the indigenous peoples of the Maritimes, New England, and the Great Lakes regions. Disc dating to 1250 to 1400. Now, in the 18th century Manuscript, a daybook ledger written by the namesake grandson of Governor Matthew Mayhew, the Thunderbird pictograms varies from recognizable birds to simply an incised X. So yeah, that's pretty much what we got in terms of the iconography of the Thunderbird. Let me show you an example of such a depiction. So yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Yep, that's the X-shaped image that a lot of people use to depict the Thunderbird. That's like the most common one. So, yeah, there we go there. So, now an American science historian and folklorist Adrian Mayer and British historian Tom Holland himself has gone on this, have both suggested that indigenous Thunderbird stories are based on discoveries of pterosaur fossils by Native Americans. What do you think?
That's an interesting concept, but I don't think Native Americans would necessarily use that against people.
Really? You don't think Native Americans just found pterosaur fossils and be like, oh, it's a bird that's still alive right now?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
To be honest,
yeah.
After all the BS that Native Americans have gone through, I don't think they would just say something like that in plain when they're trying to fight for just being alive, being on their own land, the little land that they're actually occupying.
Right. Now, however, it has been noted by somebody, I don't know, despite variations, the common design elements of the motif within different tribal groups across the continent appear distinct from the makeup of the suggested prehistoric flying reptiles, such as eagle or raptor-like avian, feathered wings, and tail, along with a vastly different head shape, perhaps with the exception of some Pacific Northwest imagery. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we got there. And now in pop culture, in 1825, Aleuts were recorded as using the term to describe the Douglas World Cruiser's aircraft, which passed through Atka on the first aerial circumnavigation by the U.S. Army team the previous year. And also, we've also seen the Thunderbird depicted as the Pokemon Zapdos, which is based on the First Nation folklore, and also the Thunderbird.
Their Instinct.
What? Your Team Instinct?
Yep.
Is that the Zapdos one?
It is.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So, and also the Thunderbird is also part of the Harry Potter franchise, and it plays a significant role in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the film that came out in 2016. So, yeah, that's pretty much the story of the Thunderbird. So, what do you think about this creature?
Well, obviously it gets around because it's embedded in several different cultures / franchises.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it can't be all bad. Just that, does it actually exist or not? That is the question.
Do you think it exists? Because like a bunch of different Native American tribes seem to have that in their religion, in their mythology and folklore.
Yes. For Native Americans, I believe it does. I believe that other folks that like Pokemon and Fantastic Beasts just kind of borrowed the idea of it and put something similar in their storylines to give it a shape. But to be honest, if it's a god or goddess for the Native Americans that they worshipped at one point, and it was originally theirs. So I believe at some point it could be a guiding animal, just like the crow and the bears, wolves in Native American mythology too. Mm-hmm. There's always a guiding spirit that guides you in your endeavors that some people listen to and some people do not.
Mm-hmm. But this is like a big bird. It's like a huge bird. It's like this big. So,
well, yeah.
Do you think that these birds might have existed back then, but no longer exist now? Like they went extinct?
Yes.
Okay. So we won't be able to see these huge birds. And what do
Not
you...
unless we find some weird wormhole
Mhm.
to go back in time, or someone to go back in time and bring something, or in an area that hasn't been touched by man that exists with the birds in it.
Right. Well, I know according to the Menominee, the Thunderbirds live in a mountain in Wisconsin. So maybe they're there.
It's a possibility that they could possibly be there, but if Native American tribes are true, then they won't show themselves to anyone but those that they deem worthy to actually see and grace them with their presence.
Oh, okay, so you think it's like you have to be worthy to they choose who gets to see them.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be able? Do you think you're worthy?
Oh no. No. Thunder might be my Pokemon theme ways, but me personally, Native American, I'm actually around the crows, bears, and wolves as my guides.
Oh, okay. No birds?
Crows are the only birds that would be close to being my guide.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, what do you think about the scientists' thing about them just finding pterosaur fossils, and that's where they got it?
You know how I feel just saying scientists.
Okay.
Like they always have to put their fingers in a thing and explain things to just explain to make it seem like this is what is actually going on.
Okay. So yeah, and that's good. Here's like also like a pretty cool looking Ojibwe pouch that was stitched that shows some Thunderbirds that we can look at really quick.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Would you get yourself one of those?
Totally.
Yeah, it looks really nice. I don't know how expensive it is. Probably is going to be pretty penny because I think it's like hand stitched.
Yeah, anything homemade is always going to be something pretty, because the time and effort that goes into putting things in that is very, very much long and gruesome of its own self and time consuming. I made a blanket that took me almost like 4 months to make, and crocheting it.
How big is the blanket?
It was supposed to be a baby blanket, but it ended up being more of a shawl, like a shawl for like a couch to kind of just put over.
Oh, you mean like
that long?
Yeah.
It's as long as my 3-seater couch.
That's a big blanket.
Yeah.
And it took you 4 months to make?
Give or take. I'm actually costing of putting it all together instead of the time I took off for it to go.
Oh, okay. Did you sell it, or do you just keep it?
It's for a friend.
Oh, okay.
It's a baby blanket for a friend of mine.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. All right.
So people that make it is always going to cost more. So just be aware of the work that puts in, that someone's going to pay extra for something homemade. It takes time.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty much the story of the Thunderbird. So what is your overall opinion of the Thunderbird? Is it out there? Is it not out there? What do we got?
I think it's out there only if you are worthy enough for it to show itself to you, even if you are wanting to do something about it.
Yep.
So be on the lookout, but doesn't mean you're actually going to be able to see it.
That's also the Thunderbird is also the symbol of a house in Ivermorny, the American version of Hogwarts in Harry Potter.
No one cares about the American version.
Okay. So do you think you won't be if you were like classified in the Alvermorny, you wouldn't be a Thunderbird?
I don't know. I would have to see where I would fit in the American houses, because I haven't actually paid attention to what each of those houses are about. Even though I live here in America, so I'm not British, but since I was raised on the original Harry Potters, I already know where my house is on there.
Yeah.
So.
I think I'm a Ravenclaw.
Ah.
Well, what are you, a Hufflepuff?
No, honey. No, I'm a Slytherin.
You're a Slytherin? No!
I am a Slytherin.
The humanity. Okay. Yeah, I think you would be great in Slytherin house. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's the story of the Thunderbird. Yeah, that's pretty informative, pretty nice learning about Native American culture. So yeah, I've been Nathaniel Avila.
And I'm Hanyu.
Hey, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to a Vision podcast, home of wacky talkies, The Kingdom, Evil Exists, and many more.